Hey guys, Steven here. I managed to top Toronto Regional last weekend with Centur-ion bystial. I decided to play a post Banlist deck list, so no Calamities, mainly just because Calamities is boring and I want to have a bit of fun. And this deck I think is solid. This is my main deck on Master Duel, which I've been playing, which is the main reason I just decided to pick it up for TCG for the event, just to see how well it converted, and it converted very well. I think this is a solid deck going forward into the next metas, as long as bystials are good, because I think they are kind of the heart and soul of the deck, even without Calamity. So getting to the list. So standard starters, so you're maxing out on the 1 card starters, so 3 Judea, 3 Primera, 3 stand up, the 3 Oath, and then the 1 terraforming. So these are all your 1 card starters. The 1 card will just get you set up for the level 12 on your turn with the back row setup, so you can make any level 12 on their turn synchro. If you open any 2 of them, and I really mean any 2, so even now because you have the new tuner, even if you open 2 of these, you are able to set up a level 12 additional level 12 sync on your turn, which means that you're able to get Cosmic Blazer Dragon down the first turn with your Centur-ion as well, and that card is extremely good in any grind game scenario. What it does, and I'll show the combo afterwards, what it does is just an Omni for basically anything, any effect. They summon something, banish it for the turn, so it's really hard to interact with, and then it comes back during the end phase. I think that combo is kind of the heart and soul of the deck, so when you open heavy engine hands, you still end up with a very powerful interruption, and it's difficult for your opponent to play through it. Moving on to the other Centur-ion cards, I played one of the new tuner, Tria, 1 Gargoyle, 1 Bonds, and 1 Phalanx. So I can talk about first what cards I did not play. So the cards I did not play is Emeth and the Counter Trap. So you should only really be playing 1 level 8 because you're only going to get 1 synchro off on their turn because of the field spell. So you don't need both level 8s, it's redundant. And this one's better because it allows you to use it twice on the first turn. So when you put it in the back row, move it up. When it's sent to the grave, it adds back your hand so you can then summon it again. And it allows you to do all the extended combos where you're making double level 12s the first turn. I think Emeth is better in the grind game because it is replacing and making sure you always have engine, but I think this deck's good enough in the grind game already. Like once you set up, you'll find that I think this is better because you want more power than the grind game. Also, this card actually does something when you draw it sometimes because you can send something to summon it from your hand where Emeth does nothing. I didn't play the Counter Trap because again I think that's too specific. You're going to get hand trapped to death a lot. There isn't a super large amount of starters, and you're fine playing hand trap boards because you can make half boards, or with bystials you can still maintain some form of board presence. But you don't want a card that's dependent on other things being, your combos going through other things being in the back row. So we play this because it's part of the combo. We play one extra. So what this does is you have Emblem and a Centur-ion card in your grave. When you summon it, you get a draw. That effect doesn't come up much. The main thing is it's just another tuner. So before we got this card, you end up needing more specific combos to do the extended combo where you're on double 12s, because once you summon this and use this effect, you can't special it again. So if you have to open this, then you aren't able to get the second 12 because you don't have another tuner access. But now because you have this is the second tuner access, so it extends all your combos that way, even if you aren't getting the draw. 1 Bonds because it's good protection, as well as it's used along the combos. It lets you replace from the grave. So what will happen is you'll add this a lot of the time when you're comboing, then you'll pitch off the field spell and you'll add Bonds to place it there. So that's how you get it in the back row. Also, this is good because if people start knowing how to hand trap this deck, which is a hole for level 12s, if you grab this early, it means that when you summon 12, you can banish, place something back there. So even if you get impermed or veiled on the level 12, you still have a bit of better setup. And then this is just a searchable interruption. It's good for a follow-up. And even if you hard to draw this by itself, it's fine. So the cards are heart and soul of the deck are the bystials. So I played a massive package. So I played the 3 Valiant and the Regain, and then Meg, 3 Jurist, and 1 Baldric. In other lists, mainly Snake, I think people prefer the Baldric because it does more. But the big thing is you're going to be synchro summing a lot with them immediately. So you want the Jurist one because being able to have this live whenever you want to send something is very important. And the reason why bystials are so good in this deck is because when you go for the 12 line, a lot of lines will only end you, or the double 12 line, all of the lines will only end you with 1 of these guys in the spell and trap card zone. And so that's not good because if you're making Blazar and you have this back there, it's kind of redundant because you didn't actually get any more advantage because the guy in the back was not going to be able to single summon. But if you open a bystial as well, that means that you can just summon and make a 10 instead. Yeah, it's not another 12, but it's fine. You're still making a Chaos Angel or a Chen Yang and triggering the bystials. And so I think these are just amazing synergy with the deck, and then they're also just very good. I play a large number of Fiendsmith decks. I think like 5 of my matchups were against Fiendsmith decks. And the 2 that weren't were Lab and Blackwings, so they just carried. And then the reasons I even included the Rebellions and the Regain is just because this deck is very much value oriented. Like you're always trying to stay 1 card up above the opponent. And Regain just is a +2 every turn. Like it's insane. You're playing a lot of hand traps. If you brick a lot of times, you're bricking on hand traps. So even if you get into a scenario where you brick and you just set up the Regain and have bystials, you are going to be outgrinding a lot of people just from the recurring advantage. Also, the Gargoyle is a dragon, so when you're comboing and you open both of them, you can pitch for Lubellion, and then the second time you would use the synchro summon, you would just summon Lubellion first, reset the regain, so when you summon Mag later, you're not actually losing any value because you're getting the draw off the regain as well as you are getting another search, so you're immediately getting the engine going the second you draw any of the cards. I think this deck is somewhat dependent on how good bystials are in the format. If bystials are bad, then this deck loses a lot of power. If bystials are very good, this deck gets a reward for them. And unlike other bystial decks, you don't actually get hurt by bystials. Like, I feel like a lot of the other decks, when you're playing Dragon Link or whatever, you lose the bystials, and so you don't want to play bystial wars, where this deck isn't depending on anything in the grave. So bystials against you aren't good, but they're very good against the rest of the field. And then for the rest of the tech cards, 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, 3 Nib, 3 Imperm. Standard hand traps. I didn't want to play Ogre because I think that Ogre's good at cracking the boards, as opposed to using it as interruption on their turn. But I think this deck is a bit weaker of an engine, so I just want to have anything to be able to use immediately on their turn, weaken their board that way. You can play through half boards, but I don't want them to make like a full board and then have an Ogre to chip away at the full board. I'd rather just have interruptions like this. I was happy with this lineup. And then I also played 3 Talents. So this is 41. Talents was okay. The one match I lost was because I drew Talents going first. I comboed, and then I just got gassed through my board. If Talents was in my hand trap, I won. Now the scenario is just really good because, I mean, it's Talents. One thing I will say about this is because of how many live cards you have in the deck, like so many hand traps and Lubellion, if I don't have the Bystial engine, I will often draw for Talents instead. Like, even if I'm already playing, I think people overvalue hand knowledge in this game. Like, the game is so quick. You don't need to have hand knowledge where you're making a decision 5 turns in advance. Like, you're gonna know most of your opponent's hand the entire first turn once they start playing. So I think the +1 is just better than going for hand knowledge, unless you're specifically like, I have one more push, I want to trade with a hand trap. So that's the main deck. The only thing I really consider switching is the Talents, but it still felt fine. Extra deck, we played double Geisha. There we go. And then 1 Axilla. You can play 1-on-1. On my Master Duel, my ratios, I also play a Baruska and a Zeus because Baruska is good in Maxi. We don't have Maxi, so I decided to up these. If you don't have any Bystials and you're going for the double Centur-ion, you're going to end on both of these. So you just get the draw and you get each of these place it back. It's nice having the second one of these because if you do that line, then this, you have one more good card to go into. You can cut this down if you have some other card you wish to play. 1 Crimson Dragon because it's the soul of the deck, and then double Blazer and the Supernova. So Blazer is just Omni for everything once per turn, not once per turn, but it banishes itself. But you can summon 2 of these. So if you go first and you make the end board of the Blazer and the Auxilia, you can summon another one of these, and then having 2 of these loop back every turn is just so oppressive. Like, they're not going to beat through that. It's not Calamities, but it's a very, very strong card. The opponent's not killing you, you're in a great game state. The Super Dragon, what it does is if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish this card, and then just banishes your opponent's field, and then this comes back during your next end phase. So it's really good when you're trying to crack a board. You have remnants of their board on the field, like versus Snake Eye, you can make this, and then they're in a really awkward position trying to clear anything afterwards, because as soon as they do something, it's like everything's gone. Other cards, 1 Chaos Urge Fiend. So what this card does, because it's a bit more of a random one, is this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls. If a card's been banished this turn, it goes up to 45, and then if this card leaves the field by opponent's card, even by battle, you can summon a Chaos monster from your extra deck, so it's Chaos Angel. So it's useful for clearing, because it's just 45 per trio. That banishes everything, and then there's times where you can crash this into something, summon the Chaos Angel and damage that, and then avoid an Imperm on the Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel, 1 Changing, because I wanted another 10. You can play Dispower, but I just wanted something a bit better for Runic decks. And then Links, 1 Artemis, 1 IP, 1 SP, and 1 Goddess. Goddess is just there for the Runic matchups it comes up against. SP and IP I think are somewhat standard. If you don't have tuner access, but you have Bystial access, you can go into IP at plus the 12 instead of the double 12s. Artemis is good because it turns this into, the Premier into Artemis, so your SP is live. There's also lines where I'll normal summon Premier, it'll get stopped, that's my only real push, but then I'll have Lubellion. And so what happens, I'll pitch Lubellion, grab the Mag, make the Artemis, and I'll just banish the Premier from my grave. Summon the Mag, trigger the Mag, and then tag out this way. Link an SP, and then banish the Artemis and put it back immediately. And you get to draw a free game. So even though I got hand trap on 1 starter, the Lubellion already gave me an extra Bystial because one's getting a searching end phase, a draw off putting the Artemis back, and you have SP. So it's still a fairly good, decent half board, even though you're not actually comboing at all. And that one actually comes up a fair bit more than you would want it to. And let's go Typhon because you're playing a weaker engine deck, so you want this to help crack boards. Side deck, 3 Molchani, 3 3 Phantasme for Snake Eye. You're putting all these in, taking the talents out, and then one Trudea, the new tuner, and a Lubellion going second. You have 23 hand traps. It's Snake Eye. It's a disgusting deck, but at some point you will have enough hand traps for them. This is usually pretty good. I only played one Snake Eye. Game 2 completely overloaded him with hand traps, and I was in the driver's seat the whole game there. 3 Talency. This card's just good versus branded and remake decks where they can kind of high roll through hand traps. I played 1 Chimera deck, which is also against. He activated a fusion card game 2. I went this. The game pretty much ended. And then 3 Cosmic for back row decks, and then 3 Judgments just as your go first card. So overall, I'm very happy with the deck. I think it's very solid. I think it's somewhat underrated. People are looking at this and going, "Oh, it's just a Calamity deck," and it's a very fair deck without Calamities. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you have to really be careful about how you're using interruptions. But when you use those interruptions correctly, it's very obnoxious to deal with. Big shout out to Evan, Lucas, and Thomas who all give me cards for the regional, and I'll see you guys next time.
I've tried to record.
All right.